program is part of the Scene Project's podcast network. The Scene Project features interviews with independent musicians, comedians, and artists from across the Midwest. Become part of our community and support local art wherever you are. Welcome into another exciting episode of Real Biz. I am your host, Bubba Startz, and with me today is actor turned attorney, Don Worley. Don, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bubba. Appreciate it.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun conversation. I think you have a pretty unique lived experience. So we don't have to go all the way back to the beginning, but would love to get a little bit of your backstory off the top here, and then we'll pick it up with everything you're doing now.
Sure. I know your podcast has a lot of comedians and artists on it, and that's what I was, and actually maybe still am. But I studied theater and actually have an undergraduate degree in theater, and was an actor and was a stand-up comic. Making my $600 a weekend and all I could drink across the country, doing 30, 45-minute shows as a stand-up comic. And I just thought, how could I use these skills to help people and make a little bit more money? And that's what led me to law school. And I went to law school, and now I do both. I'm a lawyer with a nationwide law firm representing clients all across the nation with really good lawyers working for me. But I also, I don't do stand-up really anymore, but I do acting, and I have a TV show about being a lawyer, power of attorney, and had the chance to do several movies lately. So you can be both.
And I think that we all kind of have that lived. As in your 20s, I was songwriter, musician. So I've lived that stage life, right? Making the money and the all you can drink and being in the party scene. And it works for a while and it's a lot of fun. And eventually the shine kind of wears off on it. And we all find ourselves going, well, what the hell are we going to do now? And for you, the turn to law, I'm interested in what kind of led you down. Is there lawyers in your family? Is there just something that intrigued you about it in general? Maybe it was some run-ins with entertainment lawyers and things in your career. I'm really interested in how that really started.
Well, I guess I had a couple of run-ins with lawyers.
Me too, Don.
And one specific time, it's been so long ago, but I was jury duty, and it was, one side wanted me and the other side didn't want me. So my head was spinning with the lawyers jockeying for position, asking me questions in front of the judge, one trying to disqualify me and one trying to rehabilitate me to keep me. And my head was spinning. And then another one was just, I had a traffic accident that wasn't my fault, but the city attorney had my head spinning, asking me a bunch of questions, simple ones, like if you'd been going slower, would it have happened? I'm like, well, if I wasn't driving, it wouldn't happen. but I lost representing myself, and then, which you never should do anyway. But yeah, I guess those experiences just made me curious about being a lawyer, to not let that ever happen to me again.
No, often our lives are all, tied to our personal experiences, right? And to make a career change as sudden and as drastic as that, and maybe not so drastic, and we're going to kind of cover that, later in the talk as well, with what you're doing now to help other attorneys and kind of doing training, essentially with them. But was it kind of being on the stand and being a little stumped and feeling a little lost, and trying to understand where this person's coming from that's absolutely trying to tie you in knots to convict you or to disqualify you, and just not wanting to feel that way? I have from me, I've been in that position, and I've actually represented myself and won several times in the last couple of years, but that's just because I ran out of money to pay the attorneys. But I don't like feeling duped. And I have a feeling that you don't either, Don, and that kind of led you down this path. Was it that emotional reaction to it that kind of really inspired you?
Yeah, because, obviously I'm a reasonable, intelligent person if I was able to go to law school and finish it. So being a reasonably intelligent person, you really don't like leaving something real, thinking that you've been duped, or like you didn't give you said what you thought were the right answers, but somehow it was twisted into something different and you're not able to do anything about it. And so maybe the word helpless might come to mind. You felt a little helpless, and someone took advantage of you and the situation. So yeah, I think that's what motivates a lot of people to do it. Not everyone should go to law school, but I just was sort of looking for a career path, if you will. And I didn't, I did the traditional waiter. I never did the bartender thing, although that probably would have been a better gig than waiter for me. But I did the restaurant thing. But that's, all artists, and I say all artists, all my actor friends, I don't think musicians do it as much, but they run to, restaurant jobs, which is great. I love bartenders, I love waiters, and I love restaurants, but it's not really the best job for someone in the arts, because when you leave to go do a gig, then you got to come back and try to beg for your job back or go work at a different restaurant, because you cannot do that job and be a musician or a comedian or an actor. So it's much better. And I know that things are different now in this world post COVID, but there's lots of opportunities for working remotely. And yeah, the job may not be your dream job, and it might even be something as boring as data entry. No offense to those of you out there that do data entry, but it may not be your thing, but your thing is being an artist. So it's just a way to make money and pay for the love of what you're doing. So there's a lot better opportunities out there than that's conducive to the arts, other than working in a restaurant where you have to be there every shift.
No doubt. Well, and often the best shifts conflict with the best gigs.
Right. For sure. Yeah. I've, lost a few jobs because I had some, back when I was going and trying to do auditions and be an actor and read for the small role of, hey, look, the plane is landing or whatever. And then you end up being there longer than they tell you. You go for, it's supposed to be a certain time at 11 a.m. and then they don't read you until 2 p.m. and you're late to your job, and it's just, you lose another job because you were trying to make it as an actor. So yeah, it's tough if you don't have your own gig, or an employer that's very understanding and lets you work remotely in your own hours, and they don't care whether you work from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. or if you work from 5 p.m. to midnight. So I think that's the key.
Don, you obviously still have a passion for acting, because even through your law career, and I know that I do believe you've been featured on some kind of law shows, correct? And now obviously with your new show, Power of Attorney, that you have, and some other projects that you've worked on, is it more fun to be a lawyer or to play one on TV?
It's a lot different, because the show's sort of unscripted, but it's not really reality. It's just more, the process of how we go through things. But yeah, it's obviously very fun to do that. But it's also rewarding to be an attorney. I just happened to find a combination of careers that were good for me, because I enjoy helping people in the process of, the legal process and going through the court system and mock trials and stuff, as we do on our show, Power of Attorney. But, I would say that there's parts of each that you like and parts of each you don't like. Being an actor, you don't like sitting around for 6 hours waiting to shoot, but that's part of the job too. And same with a lawyer. There's some things that are not your favorite, but every job makes it a job.
I have spent too much time in my life in courtrooms on the wrong side of the bench, or in custody battles or divorces, and a lot of time spent in that room. I know the agony of defeat in there better than most, being sentenced to a prison sentence that I wasn't expecting, which absolutely crushed me. But I've also experienced some modicum of, I don't want to call it joy, but celebrating a few wins in there. Do you find that, because you keep bringing it back to you like helping people, does bringing that kind of joy that you get from acting or telling jokes, or do you find it's kind of the same thing when you're able to win a big court case and to provide that to a client?
Yeah, and I think as far as going to the courthouse and the courtroom, it's performing also. You have actual true facts you're conveying to a jury, instead of a feature film narrative that was written by a screenwriter you're conveying to an audience. So it's a little different, but yeah, your wins there feel good and your losses feel bad. Just like if you were a comedian, you had a great show, makes you feel good, and if you had a horrible show, makes you feel bad. So
Well, and the mechanisms of acting and what you're doing in the performance, especially of, jury trials and of those, or anything that you're doing, in front of a judge and stating your case, is very performative. So I find yourself very uniquely poised to do what you do now, not just with the law firm, but I understand that you also work with a lot of attorneys and kind of training and teaching them how to be better in the courtroom. Can you talk about that a little bit?
yeah, we work with young attorneys, but also they come on the show and they learn the process that we do because when we're doing the mock trials, we obviously have to bring in someone to be the lawyer on the other side because the real defense lawyer is not going to come in and help us figure out a way to beat them. So we bring in lawyers and they work in the process and they work up the case from the other side and they see the process and they participate in the focus group and sort of a big takeaway of how to focus group their cases and do mock trials to know what a real jury may do with the case when they get it.
Now, obviously, a mock trial and these kind of things are it's not something new. They've been doing them probably since the history of law, right? But were you kind of working this before you took it onto the camera then? And it was like an epiphany with you being from the, film and stage to say, hey, this would make a great show.
Actually, no, I have to credit the producer of the TV show. Yes, the answer is I was already doing it, but I'd been approached in my career. I guess became a lawyer in 1997, so 30 years or so ago. But I've been approached a lot about doing a reality show as a lawyer, but I never thought that sounded like a great idea to put your client's personal information out there. Now I know Judge Judy does it, but that's a little different because both sides win because the show pays. It's my understanding the show, it's all like a few $1,000, that's in controversy. And even if you lose, you win because the show pays the money if you agree to come on. And so that's
it's just TV.
It's TV.
Yeah.
But one of my cases, bringing on the client, it never felt comfortable with it. So James said, well, why don't we just make an unscripted show about the process, about how you do mock trials and just take different cases you've done or cases that have been handled and how you would do that in a mock trial. And I said, that's a great formula. So that's how we did it. So.
Well, and you also have some time as a producer as well, correct?
Yes, I've been produced. Like I said, I used to try reading for roles and now I find it much with my experience being a lawyer and what I know about the film industry, I found it easier to pick projects that are good for me as an actor and produce those movies and then, put in actors that are well known into the movie so that people will actually watch it. Because if I were the star, they might not watch it. So, yes, instead of hiring an agent and going out and reading for someone else's project, I found it better to produce my own content.
Interesting. So what goes into that? I mean, we produce a lot of content, but we're doing it for YouTube essentially. Now we are working on some larger projects, but are you just kind of producing on the side of finding the talent, or are you having to also find the funding, or is it you're kind of putting in the funding after you found the talent from that angle?
Combination of everything. I don't actually do the casting. There's a casting director I like to work with, but a casting director is one that knows everyone and they go out and make the offers. And, sometimes either yourself or you have to have an investor to put up some money to attach a star to a project before you can then go out and raise the money for the entire project. But then you usually can get your money back for doing that. So, and you get your money different ways. I mean, there's different states that have tax credits to shoot a movie in, and you can get pre-sales to the foreign markets and the domestic markets and borrow against those pre-sales. And there's other types of investors that invest in movies for the tax deduction. And there's a lot of ways to go out and do it to put the money together. But I basically, my main job is putting the money together and finding the right project and then hiring the right people.
How interesting. Would love to have a little bit longer conversation off camera with you about those things, because that's we're going from being, you know, podcasters and then YouTubers in 2025 to realizing that some of the stuff that we're working on, while we already have distribution with Roku and Apple TV and some of the OTT platforms, that the money resides with the Hulus and Netflixes of the world, and possibly taking up to that next level. So personally, I'm intrigued, but we don't need to bore them with details. Don, where can everybody find out more about you? Obviously, the law firm, and getting in touch with you for any of our attorney friends that may want to be on your show, how they might be able to do so.
Sure. I mean, the website's mcdonaldworley.com, but then also Instagram and is at McDonald Worley PC, McDonald Worley PC, all one word. And it's McDonald like the hamburger chain, not MacDonald like the farmer. So it's McDonald. So and the website too, and contact us on the website, but they can reach out to us on the law side.
Excellent, Don. Well, I appreciate you spending some time with me today, giving us some insight into what I think is a very unique life lived by you, working in two incredibly competitive industries, being the entertainment world and, you know, obviously in the law world. There's probably plenty of lawyers out there, but finding a good one like a comedian sometimes can be quite a challenge. So appreciate you spending some time with me today, and I hope that you have a great rest of your day.
Okay. Thanks for having me on.
Appreciate you.
Imagine capturing the raw essence of nature with its infinite color and beauty. Now, envision turning that into something truly transformative. Pure and easy tea cultivates the goodness of nature's bounty into fuel for your body. We are what we drink. Pure and easy tea, the pure nourishment your body craves.